Good day, folks. Welcome to the MB Wildman channel. On today's video, just a real quick video. We are about 30 days away from the beginning of our spring bear season here in New Brunswick. And my good buddy James Stone reached out and asked me to do a bit of a video on some of the differences between spring bear and fall bear. James is from Nova Scotia, and Nova Scotia is getting their first ever spring bear season this year. And so it's kind of a trial basis to see how things go, but hopefully that'll be a season that catches on for the guys and girls in Nova Scotia. Spring bear is a lot of fun. This video is going to just be a little bit about some of the differences, some of the key differences between spring bear baiting and hunting and fall bear baiting and hunting here in New Brunswick. I am by no means the expert, but I do usually have a little bit of success in the areas of bears. So listen, if you haven't yet subscribed to the MB Wildman channel, we sure would appreciate it. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like the content that we're putting up, go ahead and hit that bell. You'll get notified when we upload new stuff. All right, so James, here we go. We're out here, and it's like I said, it's about a month before season, and I'm starting to already get some things ready to get some barrels out and to get some bait out. Nothing out just yet, but we're within the next week or so we'll be going down that road. So the bears themselves, spring and fall, are different, right? So if you take a look and you think about how bears operate and what they do, when they come out of their dens in the spring, bears are much leaner. So the bears themselves are going to be, they're not going to be as heavy, right? So what might be a 350, 400 pound bear in the fall might end up being a 300 pound, 350 pound bear in the springtime, because they lose a lot of their fat, right? So they use a lot of that up during that hibernation period. So they come out of their dens, they're a lot leaner. Okay, so as far as an eating bear goes, the general consensus is around here, at least, that your spring bears are your best eater bears, right? So they're the best ones that, as far as taste goes, because they haven't had all summer to eat garbage and carrion and all that other stuff, right? So they don't have that fat marbled all in through their meat. So you want a big, heavy bear, you're going for weight, you want to be hunting in the fall. Although there's some, don't get me wrong, there's some real nice bears taken in the springtime, but those real nice bears in the spring are ginormous bears in the fall. So there is the bear themselves that are different. But as far as hunting goes and baiting goes, just a couple of different things to keep in mind. The first thing that I always tell people when the difference between fall and spring bear is the hunt itself. So the hunt itself, if I'm up on my stand in the fall and I see a bear come in and I'm just looking for an eater, I'm just looking for something to shoot, and I want to take a bear, and a bear comes in the fall, you can just put it in the sights and shoot it, right? But in the springtime, you have to be careful that that's not a sow with cubs. So it is against the law in New Brunswick to shoot the mom, right? So shoot the sow if she's got cubs. So we're regulated. We have to literally wait. And if we're in our stand and we got a bear coming into a bait or bear coming into an area, we have to make sure that there are no cubs with that. So there is a time frame, and it's a mental switch, right? For a lot of people that are out there to just take an animal, the idea that you're going to have to wait a few minutes to make sure that there are no cubs trailing. Okay, now typically the cubs are real close, right? So it's not really a matter of, you don't have to wait for half an hour, but there are times when those cubs will hang back and the sow will come in to the bait or to the barrel, and it might be 2-3 minutes before you hear those cubs coming in or before the cubs come in behind her. So you do have to wait as far as that goes. So that is one main difference, is that there are sows with cubs in the springtime. Now when it gets to be the fall, it's open. I mean, there's no rules like that in the fall. You can take whatever in the fall here in New Brunswick, but that is one of the key differences. Another one of the key differences is the food itself that the bears eat in the springtime. So bears come out of their den and they're looking for green grass, they're looking for clover, they're looking to eat all of that type of stuff to get their digestive system moving again. You can bait in the springtime, I mean, with just about anything, because bears are so hungry and they're looking to gain those calories back. So you can put pretty much anything in the barrel. Well, you can start out with meat. I generally start out with a meat source, and as soon as that's gone, I switch over to like sweet bait. Molasses and bread and popcorn and all kinds of whatever else you can use. Like I say, once you get a bear coming to your bait, they're pretty much going to stay there. They're there for any amount of food. But in the fall, that you have to watch and be a little tiny bit more careful, just because in the fall you've got a lot more agricultural crop that's out there, right? So in the fall you've got, wow, that sun is right in my eye. Whew. in the fall, you've got you got bears, you got fields and fields and fields of corn, and you got fields and fields and fields of soybean. And so it depends a lot on where you're hunting and what the food source is. We will hunt, a lot of our hunters, and lots of times I will hunt over corn in the fall. It's a pre-established 50-acre, food barrel, and you get bears coming out of the woods, and they make the trails. And I've done a couple of videos on hunting bears over corn, so if you want to check those out. But that's a thing that's in the fall, right? So the actual food source is much easier in the spring. I usually start early, like Christmas time. I start saving scraps and stuff. Nothing that will go rotten, like not table scraps like food, but like you got a half a bag of chips that goes stale, or Elliot pops a bag of popcorn and doesn't eat the whole thing. I have a bag and I just keep throwing all that in there, all that dry good stuff, because that makes excellent bear bait. So I start saving that stuff up early, and again, once they establish and once they get coming to a site, then they'll eat just about anything. But there isn't any in the spring. There's no competition from natural food sources out there because the crops aren't up yet here in New Brunswick. So there is that too. Another thing to look at and to be mindful of is that the spring is bears' mating season. So unlike white-tailed deer that mate in the fall, spring is the bears' mating season. They will mate late May through June, pretty much. So there is a lot more activity from those big boars during that time. How does that affect your hunt? Well, I guess it depends on what kind of bear you're looking to take. But you will see a lot more female activity at your bait as far as food goes, and they can be run off pretty easy. You get a big aggressive boar come in, and they'll run them off the food source. Now the females will be back, so it's not the end of the world, but you will find that if you're looking for a big male bear to take, spring is the time to do it, or the easier time to do it, because once they get into that rut phase, then they're following those females around. So you'll get a lot of times you get a good sized female will come into a barrel and start to feed, and then she looks a little nervous, she looks a little skittish, she starts kind of moving in and moving out, moving in, moving out. There's probably a big boar around somewhere that's looking to come in and try to mate with her. So keep mating season in mind when you're out there. Okay, just a couple more things, main differences. First of all, and one of the key differences, and we get this all the time, and I get people tell me all the time, I set up my stand and I get it all going. Every time I go in, the wind is wrong. So here in New Brunswick, we typically set up, and I spent tons of time telling people, set up for the west wind, north wind, west wind, your stand should be looking northwest. I spent all kinds of time telling people that. And then I say, except for spring bear. So lots of times in the springtime here in New Brunswick, we end up with a south or southwest wind in that early part of spring, like that mid-May through early June. You're going to get that southwest wind or that south wind. Unlike in the fall when I'm out there hunting whitetail and it's pretty much, a west wind or a northwest wind, it's easier to set up. So check your wind direction for where you're at. Again, I don't know where you're watching this video from. You could be anywhere, but figure out which direction the wind typically blows in the springtime in your area. And it's going to usually be different than it is in the fall. Pretty significantly. So a lot of my stands for spring bears, are set up facing in that southwest direction. So the south wind is across me one way and southwest, and you know what I mean? So you got a west wind, a southwest wind, and a south, those different wind directions than there are in the fall. So you want to make sure that you're always hunting the wind. Bears, I tell people bears are easy, but they're not stupid, and they can smell really, really well. So if a bear wins you, boom, they're going to go, right? So you have to, one of the main key things for bears is make sure you're hunting the wind right, no matter if it's fall or spring. And that's just hunting stuff, right? Hunt the wind the right way. That's just, no matter what you're hunting. But just be aware that probably where you are, if you're a whitetail hunter or you're fall bear hunting, your wind is different for fall bear than it is for spring bear in your area, almost exclusively. Okay, and very last thing, and this is kind of the fun one and one to be ready for, is the actual hunting conditions themselves. Okay, so spring bear is a unique hunt here in New Brunswick, and it can be a miserable hunt. You're talking about, the snow's finally gone, and just as spring bear gets here, so do the mosquitoes and the black flies and the dog flies and the horse flies, and so you get hot temperatures, and you get cool nights, and you get like all of that stuff, right? The conditions where you're going to sit and hunt spring bear in New Brunswick, like you better have a Thermacell, and you need to have a bug net, and you need to have this, like you need to be ready. You need to be ready for the conditions that you're going to hunt. The fall, you know, hey, beautiful New Brunswick, beautiful Nova Scotia, beautiful, you know, fall, wherever you are. It's cooler temperatures. The bugs are pretty much gone. It's not too cold, but it's not too hot. You know, I love the fall. I would take 10 months of fall and 2 months of summer and then call it a year. That's just me. But out there in the springtime, you can be sitting in your bear bait and you can be literally surrounded by clouds of black flies and mosquitoes and whatever other critters are coming out in the springtime. You can be sitting there and it can be, you know, t-shirt weather and you're dressed in full camo and you could be sweating, you know, a lot. So you make sure you have stuff to stay hydrated and all of those types of things. I'm not going to tell you how to hunt. I'm just going to tell you that the conditions of a spring hunt are vastly different than the conditions of a fall hunt for bear, right? So if you haven't invested in a Thermacell, if you haven't invested in like a bug net or a bug jacket that'll keep the mosquitoes off you and things like that and the black flies, then that's one thing I do recommend for your spring bear hunt. So anyway, listen, just a real quick, you know, kind of differences between the fall and the spring bear. I hope this is something that can help you out. And James Stone and everyone else in Nova Scotia, congrats on getting yourselves kind of in that realm for a spring bear hunt, and hopefully it works out well for you, and I wish you all the best and all the success in the world. So until next time, happy hunting from the NB Wildman channel.